Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today. We are about to embark on a really fascinating journey, what we're calling the data refiner's journey. If you've ever stared at a messy, completely unformatted CSV event log and just felt totally overwhelmed by it, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to walk step by step right through the Power Automate process mining environment, and I'm going to show you exactly how to take that raw, chaotic data and transform it into crystal clear, actionable operational insights. So it really all starts with this one fundamental question. How do you turn a chaotic wall of text into deep operational insights? Think of your raw data kind of like an unpolished stone. When it's just sitting there, it's rough, it's practically unreadable, and its true value is completely hidden from view. But with the right tools and a nice structured approach, you can chisel away all that excess, polish up the edges, and reveal the absolutely brilliant process map that's hiding inside. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our blueprint for turning those raw logs into process gold. First, we've got taming raw CSV data. Second, filtering and replacing values. Third, formatting dates with locales. Fourth, renaming steps for organization. And finally, number 5, mapping attributes for mining. Let's kick things off with Section 1, Taming Raw CSV Data, Structuring the Chaos. Now, before we even touch a single tool, you absolutely need to know this number, 3. There are exactly 3 required fields your data must eventually possess for process mining to actually work. They are case ID, activity, and event start. Literally everything we do in these initial prep steps is about manipulating our data so we can clearly identify and map out those 3 mandatory pillars. So often when you export an event log into a CSV, all the data for a single row is just crammed into one single cell, usually separated by a character like a vertical bar. It's a complete mess, completely unreadable. To fix this, just open it up in Excel, select your rows, and hit the Data tab. You're going to use the Text to Columns tool, choose Delimited, and then in the other box, just type that vertical bar character. Hit Finish, and boom, instantly, all that crammed data splits up into neat, perfectly readable columns. Moving right along to Section 2, Filtering and Replacing Values, Chiseling Away Excess. Once your data is sitting nicely in readable columns and loaded into the Power Query Transform stage, you might notice some junk. Let's say your data set includes activities from Vendor 8, but Vendor 8 hasn't been on your preferred vendors list for a while now. Their data adds absolutely no value to your current analysis, so why keep it? In Power Query, it's super easy. Simply highlight the vendor column, click the drop-down menu, clear the checkbox for Vendor 8, and click OK. Just like that, you've completely filtered out all those irrelevant activities tied to that specific vendor. But sometimes it isn't just about removing data, it's about clarifying it. Take the abbreviation OCR, for instance. In a really complex process map, abbreviations like that can just be way too vague. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why we use the Replace Values feature. We want our data to read fully and clearly, spelled out as optical character recognition, so there's zero confusion later on. So for all the beginners out there, here is exactly how you execute that text replacement. First, select the Transform tab and click Replace Values for your target column, like resource or resource name. Crucially, you want to select Advanced. Type OCR right in the Find box, and then type the full name in the Replace box. Make absolutely sure you check Match Entire Cell Contents. If you don't, you might accidentally replace fragments of other words, which is a headache you don't want. Then just hit OK. All right, Section 3, Formatting Dates with Locales, Perfecting Timelines. To really perfect your timelines, you need to understand the Using Locale setting. It's this Power Query Transform feature that applies specific regional formatting when you're changing a column's data type. Now, why does this actually matter? Well, think about it. A date written as 04/05 could mean April 5th over in the US, but it means May 4th in Europe. Locale simply ensures your location-specific data is interpreted accurately by the system. Let's look at how to actually apply this. You select your timestamp column header, go over to the Data Type dropdown and select Using Locale. Set the data type to date/time. So the crucial point here is setting the locale to English Europe, assuming that matches your source data, of course. By doing this, the system is going to perfectly read your European timestamps without completely scrambling the chronological order of your events. And hey, while we're looking at that timestamp column, let's make a really quick adjustment. Remember those 3 required fields we talked about earlier? We just double-click the timestamp header and rename it to Event Start.
With just a quick type and hitting enter, our data is now perfectly aligned with the exact terminology that the process mining engine is expecting. Next up is Section 4, Renaming Steps for Organization, the best practice twist.
Over in the Applied Steps section of Power Query, every single transformation you make, every filter, every locale change, it all adds a step. But the system uses these incredibly generic default names, like replaced value. If you end up with 10 of those, how on earth do you know which is which? It's simple. Right-click the generic step, select Rename, and give it a highly descriptive name, something like Replace OCR Resource. Honestly, this is a true pro tip for maintaining ultimate project clarity as your transformations inevitably grow in complexity. And for those of you who are more visual learners, you can actually just click the Diagram View button. This gives you a beautiful, flowchart-like visual layout of all the steps you've applied. It makes the underlying logic of your transformation flow incredibly easy to follow. Plus, you can even right-click to rename your steps directly within this visual view, which is pretty handy.
Which brings us to Section 5, Mapping Attributes for Mining, the final puzzle piece.
We start off by mapping those mandatory fields. We've been prepping this whole time. It's wonderfully straightforward. Under attribute type, you simply match case ID to case ID, activity to activity, and event start to event start. You've done such a good job preparing the data up to this point that this part is practically automatic. Now, what's really interesting here is how we map the optional fields. Your data likely has other great, rich info, like vendor or region. Because these details usually apply to the entire case, right from the very beginning, you map their attribute type as a case-level attribute first event. Doing this ensures the engine can easily group and filter your overall cases by these specific metrics later on in your analysis.
With all your attributes meticulously mapped out, you are finally at the finish line. All you have to do now is select the Save and Analyze button. That's it. You can sit back, go grab a coffee, and just let the Power Automate engine work its magic, compiling all your pristine, well-structured data into a comprehensive, highly visual process overview. Which leaves us with this final, really exciting thought. What hidden operational insights will your newly polished data reveal? You know, you've learned how to tame that raw text, filter out the noise, perfectly format the timelines, and map out the attributes. You now have the exact skills needed to turn messy logs into strategic gold. So go take your freshly prepped data, fire up the engine, and start hunting for those real-world business bottlenecks. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and happy mining.